19th century Japanese woodblock printer Utagawa Kuniyoshi is now recognized as one of the masters of ukiyo-e prints, right alongside Katsushika Hokusai and Utagawa Hiroshige. Upon exploring the life and artwork of Kuniyoshi, spanning nearly 5 decades, one quickly finds his famed reputation is due to the variety of themes and styles incorporated into his work. At the beginning of the 1800s, Japan started to open its border after long seclusion from Western powers. However, with a diminishing samurai class, Japanese government needed the right type of propaganda to invigorate the idea of an elite military that could fend off foreign encroachment. Kuniyoshi's first renowned series, Suikoden, or the Water Margins, gave Japanese people that vision through highly detailed and dynamic scenes of popularized Chinese warrior tales. Through these pages, with dark tones and heavily tattooed men filling the entire sheet, Kuniyoshi's prints were preferred over other artists, including Hokusai, who used less color and boldness. The print's use of exotic textile patterns and tattoos also influenced his audience and started the trend of full-body tattoos among the merchant class. These tattoos, featuring mythic creatures, is still a continuing part of Japanese culture, especially among the yakuza, or Japanese mafia. Capitalizing on the popularity of the Water Margin tale, over a decade later, Kuniyoshi will remake the series, using a Japanese rendition as a basis. Note the stark differences in this print, the skin tone, the detailed background, and the less explosive direction of movement, as we take a look into how Kuniyoshi transformed his style in the 1830s. During the following decade, Kuniyoshi also makes prints of mythic creatures, developing a skill for drawing the fantastic. This creates a significant shift in his second Suikoden series. Let's first take a look at Hokusai's Surimono of the boy wrestling a giant carp, done in 1820s. The image merely acts as a visual to the story written on the left margin, while Kuniyoshi's identical drawing, done in 1837, controls the story, maintaining a unique balance of realness and fantasy, while adding the specific detail to both the carp body and the splashes of the waterfall. At the same time, Kuniyoshi became heavily influenced by what he could find of Western artwork. Just as Van Gogh and Monet started painting ukiyo-e prints that were imported with goods from the East, Kuniyoshi started emulating new styles of art he had never seen before. The most prominent example is his exact copy of the architecture in this 17th century Dutch engraving. In his version, robbers replace the civilians, but the buildings and perspectives are the exact same. The use of depth perception becomes a key attribute Kuniyoshi will start to add to his warrior work. Kuniyoshi begins to develop crude but popular shunga, or spring pictures, concentrating on creating a personality for his characters. However, he also starts creating benevolent representations of women. Compare 3 scenes of a pleasure boat. First, Totoya Hokai's print of a woman done in 1804. In spite of the fading over time, notice the lightness of the colors used, and the focus of the single lady in such a delicate pose on the boat. Kuniyoshi's print, completed in 1850, takes on a completely different style. With its typical bold colors, Kuniyoshi engages his character in an action and combines both men and women in the event. Even Hokusai's print, appearing on the bottom, focuses more on the landscape than on the characters themselves. Finally, we come full circle and arrive at the second Water Margin series. A more powerful and accomplished review than much of Kuniyoshi's other work. Unlike the original set, we see heroes overcoming the elements to defeat powerful monsters. The battles become more legendary, losing the sense of historical context to embody the fantastic. In Mitsukini Defies the Skeleton Spectre, finished in 1844, we find all the techniques that Kuniyoshi has practiced merged into one final piece. Replacing the foreign patterns in the textiles and the clothing and the curtain with simple colors, the fabrics lose their sense of the exotic, and allows the viewer to focus on the people themselves. Reading from right to left, the perspective is learned through his interactions with Western painting, the use of the triptych, and a natural feel for the rule of thirds. It's important to note that Kuniyoshi also uses the correct anatomy of a skeleton in this piece, almost certainly gleaned from a drawing seen in a European medical textbook. Turning from there to the warriors in the middle panel, the action is influenced less by movement and more by the expressions. The central figure, Mitsukuni, is battling Princess Takayashi's guard when the evil princess summons the skeleton. Notice the different emotions described in each person's face. Even the skeleton appears to be grinning as he enters in from the void. This is the type of dynamic Kuniyoshi practiced in his Shinga pictures. Even more relative to his spring pictures are the body positions of the men, which are similar to two people engaged in sex, and the princess's voyeuristic position as she reads from her scroll. Although most of Kuniyoshi's art thrived on the warrior theme, by looking at his life work, he clearly doesn't focus on one type of style. His practice with different subjects from portraits to landscapes, as well as his imitation of other artists, helped establish his own recognizable style. Towards the end of his life, he continued to expand his knowledge, adding a significant amount of humor and satire into his prints. Like his second set of the water margins, he often looked back and remixed the art of his earlier life.